Hello friends, James Stephenson here. Have you noticed that everywhere you go, you see more Teslas now on the roads and in parking lots, wherever you go? Well, the reason for that is that Tesla has been selling more cars every year than they did the year before for the past 10 years. Do we expect that trend will continue? I do, and I forecast a very detailed Tesla earnings model twice every quarter and tweet it out publicly on Twitter. So what I would like to do is record a series of videos where I go through and talk in a little more detail about my Tesla forecast. So let me go ahead and show you what's on my computer here. So you got my S, X, 3, and Y here. They're not quite in the sexy order you would want them to appear in, but those are some sexy looking vehicles, no matter what order you present them in. I'm gonna bring up my Twitter here, and this is my first bookmarked tweet that I have in my Twitter bookmarks. Yeah, feel free to bookmark it yourself. I'm going to provide a link in the video description below. I'm just going to talk about these first 4 tweets out of my 69 tweet forecast thread. So let me jump in here and start talking about this first one. Now, when I tweet this out, I have to introduce what people are going to get in the thread. So that leaves me no time at all to talk about this chart itself. So let's take a look at it and go through it in a little bit more detail. So I mentioned that every year Tesla sells more cars than they did the year before. And I've got it plotted out here by quarter and by year without yearly totals on it. So all you see is the quarters themselves. In 2020, you see Q2 was down here a little bit for Fremont production. Well, the reason for that is COVID had just flared up in Q2 of 2020 to the point that the Alameda County Health Department had ordered the Fremont factory closed for 6 weeks. So that accounts for this little drop that you see here, and then it ticked right back up again to Q3 when the factory was open for that entire quarter. So these first 4 areas you see on this stacked area chart are the Fremont Model S, the Fremont Model X, Fremont Model 3, and Fremont Model Y. I've got these here in chronological order of when they began production. So what we saw in 2021 was very low production and deliveries of both Model S and Model X. But Model 3 more than picked up the slack there. And we expect the Fremont Model 3 numbers to grow over time. Then on top of that, you see the Fremont Model Y numbers, and these continue to grow as Fremont continues ramping up production. You see pretty steady growth from the year it was introduced in 2020 forward through 2021. On top of that, these red and yellow areas are the Shanghai Gigafactory's production of Model 3 and Model Y, which really grew considerably in 2021 versus what they were doing in their first year in 2020. And that growth should continue. Now I'm going to have to go update this forecast. So this was my forecast as of February 14th. It was announced that Tesla is going to break ground on another factory adjacent to the Shanghai Gigafactory to produce an additional million vehicles per year or so. So I'll have to update these numbers quite a bit. A million a year is 250,000 per quarter. So that's a significant factory. We don't know what kind of vehicles it's going to produce yet. Could be Model 3 or Y or some other model yet to be announced. All right, on top of these, we have The new factories Tesla is opening this year. So you can follow on YouTube a lot of different accounts that do drone flyover videos and photos of the progress of production at both Giga Austin and Giga Berlin. And they are both producing Model Ys already. There was some FUD over the past week when Tesla stock took a really deep dive about the Berlin Gigafactory water problems. Tesla has approval to use enough water to support the building that they've already built. They just, I guess for some reason, the media decided to publish some FUD about water resources when there's a coal mine nearby using 170 times as much water as Tesla requested as their limit. I didn't want to get sidetracked on that discussion though. So what we expect is for 2022 Q1 to start with very low production from both Texas Model Y and Berlin Model Y, and to have that ramp up throughout this year to decent numbers by the end of the year, and then really growing a lot next year, the same kind of growth that we saw from Shanghai as they ramped over their first 2 years. Then, after the Model Ys, Berlin should produce some Model 3. They may be able to produce Model 3 on the same line as the Model Y. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. The same could be true in Texas, being able to produce Model 3 on the same line that produces Model Y. But we do feel confident that Semi is going to ramp very slowly over the next few years as they move the pilot production line from Nevada over to Texas, where they will also be producing the much anticipated, eagerly awaited Cybertruck. All right, let's keep moving on to tweet 2 from my forecast thread. This is a sexy chart. Why am I calling it sexy? Because it's S, 3, X, and Y stacked in bars. So similarly to the previous chart, this one is only these 4 models, and it's not by site, it's grouping them together. So you can see that the S, even if it doesn't grow very much, and that's what I'm forecasting, it'll stay at a pretty steady state demand along with Model X. You've got a lot of growth coming from Model 3 and Model Y, in particular Model Y. This crossover SUV model type is very much in demand these days. So we expect that ramp to continue through 2022, making Model Y the top selling kind of Tesla, and before long it'll be the best-selling model of all time for Tesla, and possibly the best-selling model of any kind in the world. Certainly the best-selling luxury vehicle in the world in 2022 by revenue, and then in 2023 by units, possibly. We'll wait and see how that goes. That's tweet 2. Then on tweet number 3, we throw out the S and the X and just look at Model 3 and Model Y, this time as bars horizontally. The same idea, you've got it here by quarter and by year over a long time span, starting in 2018 through 2025. So we're expecting, we being me, I guess, using the royal we, that Model Y will surpass Model 3 this year and just keep going and not look back. So these will be the number 1 and number 2 selling luxury vehicles in the US and possibly worldwide. You may see some FUD from China about the Wuling Mini microcar being a better seller there than the Teslas are, but that is not a comparable vehicle. That is not a luxury vehicle. That is not a particularly safe vehicle. There are no airbags in that vehicle. It has a 70-mile range and a top speed of 65 miles per hour and I bet you don't feel safe if you're doing 65 miles per hour in it. That is a tiny city car that competes against mopeds. That's the smallest, cheapest EV in the world. So let's move on to slide number 4. Here's a chart showing the relationship between Tesla global production and deliveries by quarter. So let's look at this. Yeah, this growth is going to come mostly, but not entirely, from Berlin and Austin. But these are actuals as reported from 2021. You're seeing the production and the deliveries almost right on top of each other as Tesla really gets their logistics smoothed out and minimizes the disconnect between how many vehicles were produced versus how many were delivered. It also helps to have production on 3 continents so that you have less to worry about in terms of getting the vehicles that need to go the farthest to be delivered, produced and shipped early in the quarter so that they maximize their odds of being delivered before the end of the quarter. So a lot of growth still ahead for Tesla in both production and deliveries. And I want to keep these videos short, so I will stop there and say, if you like this video, click the like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, click the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.